Well, hello again. Welcome to the Alan Hudson Podcast. It's a very sad day for us on the podcast today. In fact, it's a very sad day for everyone connected with Chelsea Football Club, following the news of the passing of, well, one of the greats, really. Fantastic left back for Chelsea in the 60s and the 70s. And, oh, what an inspirational manager he was in the 70s as well. And joining Alan and I today is one of his centre forwards, Tommy Langley. Tom, thanks for joining us today. As I say,
Pleasure,
incredibly
Tom.
sad day.
Yeah.
What did Eddie mean to you?
Oh God, how long you got? I mean, it's a weird one, Tom, because I was very, very, very close with Eddie, and there's lots of reasons for it. I made my debut at 16. And Eddie was the driver of that. So we played Leicester at home, Stamford Bridge, and I said I was a 16-year-old boy. He took me to the Lily. Do you remember that, Eddie? The Lily, 16-year-old kid. I go to the Lily Hotel. We're doing a pre-match meal. I've never had a pre-match meal in my life like it. A bit of Sexton play I've never seen in life, and rice pudding. How I ran around for 90 minutes after that was a miracle. But and then he took me to the stadium, and the cameras were there. It was my debut, and as I said, he chaperoned me into the dressing room. We drew 0-0, did all right, didn't do anything dramatic, and that was my debut. Then on the 7th of February, I was in the boot room at Mitcham Owl, which you'd know, and I was cleaning the boots because I was an apprentice, and he came up to me in the boot room. And I was cleaning the boots for the next day because we were playing Birmingham at home. And he came up to me and he said, and I'd had a niggle. And he said, are you fit? So I went, yeah, I'm fit, boss. He went, right, I'm going to put you on the bench tomorrow. So I went, oh, lovely. It was really, obviously, a lovely surprise. So I hadn't played for a couple of weeks. What he didn't realise was that was my 17th birthday the next day. So I went to the stadium. We was drawing 1-1 with Birmingham. 20 minutes to go, and he went, right, I'm going to put you on. Can't remember to this day who he took off, but he so I went on. The ball come into the box. I threw my leg at it. It went in the back of the net. We won 2-1. So not only did he give me my debut, I scored my first goal at Stamford Bridge, first goal for Chelsea, under his tenure. So if you ask me what Eddie meant to me, mate, he was a major influence in how I started and how it went on. So it was brilliant, lovely man.
Yeah, it was. I mean, mine was completely different because he was playing when I tell the stories about when I used to do I was injured at the time. I was out for about 6 months, 9 months with what they called the Osgood-Slater's disease in my knee.
Yeah,
every time I got a knock, I just couldn't play on. Anyway, one thing led to another. So Tommy Docherty pulled a masterstroke on it, really. He just said, look, you can't train, you can't run, you just can't jog, nothing, no ball, you're out. So do the dressing room. So I'd done everything in the dressing room. And that was where I began to get my favourites, Eddie, number one, Marvin Hinton and John Dempsey. And although I cleaned the boots, I would clean their shoes as well. My favourites, I would clean their shoes. It wasn't until they had a shower and got dressed that people would realise that their shoes were a lot shinier than anyone else's. But Eddie was my number one man, But that's how it all started. And then I remember the first time I played in an away game with him, and we sat having lunch and all that. And he was real looking up at me, like making sure the knives and forks were in the right place and all that. Like I was a little dumb boy from Chelsea, But he was great to me. I loved him. I loved him from that moment. And then when in hospital in 1997, I got a load of cards and letters from all over the world, and my friend Martin, I read the Eddie letter, and he was sitting on the end of the bed and he was crying. He said that the most unbelievable letter from Eddie over in Memphis at the time, Tennessee. And so when I got out of hospital, my first promise was to go and see him, and I went and stayed in David Crockett Close with him, and it was I had an unbelievable. I was telling Tony earlier on, I had a fantastic couple of 2-3 weeks with him, and he would be, because he was off the booze then.
Yeah.
But he would go out and he'd go out in the morning, drive down to the supermarket, and get me a bottle of Crown Royal Special every day. And I would sit in the garden, and he'd keep opening the door when he was cooking, like for a party or something, and he'd say, "I can't believe that Alan Hudson's come over all this way to see me." And I'd just slam the door and run back inside. It was funny. But he'd do it in such a funny way. It was lovely. It was such a,
That was quite recent as well. How many years ago was that? It was not long ago.
No, it'd have been at least 10 year ago, Tom.
Yep.
And when he was obviously manager with you in the side, I was on the run from Arsenal. I weren't going in, and I would be round with my mum's because I was having treatment, and I'd have it in the morning, sit there, and the phone would ring about 2:00. It'd be Eddie, and he said, "I've had enough in the office today. I can't do no more in here. We can't win games in the office." He says, "Townhouse," and we used to meet around a townhouse 3 or 4 times a week, and that was our little getaway there. But great fella.
Yeah, beautiful man, mate. And even when he managed us out, I mean, obviously, I had an affinity with him, and obviously he liked me as a player, which obviously helps. But that group, Alan, as well. There was such a young group of guys. I mean, we all grew up together, 16, 17, 18s, and Eddie was like the father figure, but he was as mad. He was as mad as us. Yeah. And that was the thing that really got you. He was like we used to do sprints on a Friday before the game, like we all did, and he wouldn't say go, he just breathed, and if he breathed and you didn't hear it, like it was just mental things like that. But we'd laugh and we'd giggle and we'd have some fun, and it was just really it was just a different sort of concept. You grew up you played under Dave Sexton and people like that. Eddie was a different coach altogether.
Well, it would have been. I think he just took a lot of Dave's ideas and Tommy Doc's ideas, and I mean, what do you do with a lot of youngsters like that? He done an unbelievable job. It's I remember being. It was quite strange. I was signed when I was in Seattle. I signed to play in the indoor league, and 6 or 7 out players were signed for Pittsburgh, and I agreed to go to Pittsburgh. And one day I got a phone call saying that Eddie got the job in Cleveland, Ohio. So I had an agent for this one, and phoned him up. I said, I'm going to Cleveland. I'm going to play for Eddie. He said, "Well, you haven't spoken to him yet." I said, "No." He said, you call Cleveland and tell them I want to go." He said, "Well, you won't get." He said, "You get twice as much money at Pittsburgh." I said, "Sometimes, mate, money don't come into it." I said, I want to play for Eddie. That was it.
You can have twice as much fun playing for Eddie, yeah.
Well, I got injured after Jim Steele done me in a 5-a-side, which worked very funny, but in a pre-season. But I didn't get. I played later on in some great games for him, but he always. I remember him telling one kid. He said about sprinting. Now he was probably the most. If you watch Eddie McCreadie, he was stylish, wasn't he? He was known for his style and his overlapping. It was the first overlapping fullback. And he said to one kid, we were doing sprints, and he says, "Hang on," he says, "a bit here." He says, "Yeah, you're not the quickest in the world." He said, "And when you're not that quick, run with a bit of style, make out, look like you're sprinting." And the kid didn't understand what he was talking about. He said, "Look like people," and Eddie was like that. He was graceful. Everything he done, it was so graceful, wasn't he? And he drummed that to the players. Even if you can't run, look like you can, when you're dealing with, inferior players. But he was he'd have a party around his house, and he'd say about 12 o'clock, he'd have all the players down and their wives, and about 12 o'clock he'd go, right, all out. He said, Al, you're staying. Clyde Best, you're staying. Chris Bennett, you're staying. And all the rest of you are out. You've had a good night. Go straight under bed. See you in the morning. We used to sit there at about 5 o'clock in the morning, you know. Great. Loved him.
It's funny, Al, because when you talk about being an athlete, when I think I was 15, and it was a school holiday, so they were doing pre-season, and they needed bodies to sort of do a bit of team shape. So I played wide right up against Eddie, and you've got to remember, Ozzy, Eddie, Charlie, all them people were my idols. I grew up watching you guys. So when so I get a ball out wide right, I knocked it past him because the one thing, as you know, I could do was run, and I went past him like he was stood still. I'm just about to cross the ball. Next thing I know, I get a whack from behind. It was Eddie flying at me. He weren't having no 15-year-old boy go past him on the right-hand side, that's for sure. So that may be where we got an ability. I don't know.
Yeah, he's letting you know, Tom.
I just wondered if it just went through my mind that infamous tackle in the 1970 FA Cup final when he almost kicked Billy Bremner's head off. Did he ever talk to either of you about that tackle?
Well, decapitated him, didn't it? Nearly. I mean, I was watching it. I was a 12-year-old boy watching it in my house, and how that weren't a penalty and a sending off is a miracle. But that was the game. That was the game then when we played Leeds. Addy, you know, I'm doing a bit with Johnny Boyle. Love him. We're doing the match day hosting, and John tells me the first time he played against Leeds or was playing against Leeds, you guys were going up on the train. And he sat next to Eddie. So halfway through the journey, Eddie's gone to him, Boilers, he said, I don't know how high you tackle, but when we play Leeds, we tackle 6 inches higher. And Boilers tells that story, and he loves it because obviously Eddie was, that was the reputation that you guys and Leeds had between each other. So at that stage, brilliant.
But he wasn't just a hard man, was he? I mean, he was a classy left back.
Well, it was classy. I mean, I used to watch him. Addy was no better than I. He played with him, but geez, he didn't shirk a challenge, mate. He was never going to pull out of anything. But as Addy's just said, he was probably the first overlapping left back going up and down on that left hand side. And so yeah, I mean, he was a very talented player, but he wouldn't pull out any 50-50s, Al, would he?
Oh, he wouldn't know what it's like to pull out. No. I mean, it's like the day. When he kicked Stanley Matthews, you know, he said he'd never been more scared in his life. He said they were drawing 0-0 at the bridge and they had to win. They were up the top with Stoke, and coming out of the game, and Doherty walked in and he just went round the dressing room. He said, "And you?" He said, "Where did I get you from?" So he went, "Sterling." He says, "Well, if you don't go out and kick this number 7, however old he is, don't care what his name is, you don't kick him in the second half, you're fucking going back to Sterling." And that's what he said. First whack in the second half, wasn't it? Bang, and they booed him. The Chelsea crowd booed him throughout the game, didn't they? Which should have happened. And it couldn't happen because it was Stanley Matthews, but that's the way the game should be played, you know, and Doherty weren't having it. But he was a bundle of nerves. Late on, he was a bundle of nerves. And when I left for Stoke, I had a party around my house, house leaving party, you know, that night. And I phoned him up and I asked him and his missus round to come, and she turned up. And I said, "Where is he?" And she said, "They've just taken him away. They just taken him away in a straitjacket. Couldn't sleep." You know, you used to wear the dark glasses. Yeah. That was because of lack of sleep. It was through nothing else. It weren't because trying to be clever or nothing. He told me in Cleveland, one night, he said he used to wake up lie awake and go to the curtains and pull the curtains open and all that, and just waiting for daylight, you know.
Did he go into, is that when he went into Banstead? Was that Banstead he went to, yeah?
He must have. Yeah. Yeah.
I heard that rumour, but I didn't know that was a true story, you know? But,
Yeah, he did. They took him away because Anne, I think his name was, wasn't it? She was a nice girl. She said, yeah, they've taken him away. I went, oh my God. I thought he broke down because I was leaving, but it weren't that. It was,
we all broke down when you left, mate. We all broke down, don't worry.
Sorry, just to be clear, what are you referring to back in Banstead?
There was a nut house.
Yeah, there was a hospital where people went and sort of tried to recover from various ailments, illnesses, you know, and obviously it was a mental one. So, yeah.
I mean, on the lighter side, I played there one day and at Banstead because Crystal Palace used to play their home games there in the place in the field there, and we're one corner after another against. And anyway, Palace whacked one out, and we've all come back. As we come back, there's a man and woman on the edge of our box doing the waltz. They were dancing to a waltz. I had to stop the game and get them off the field.
Oh no.
Yeah. There we should have trained there, really. We took people like Charlie and Eddie and Sponge. Benson would have been perfect. They could have went straight in there after they retired, couldn't they?
Al, was he a bundle of nerves just towards the end of his career, or was he like that all the way through his career when you played with him?
He said to me one day, I asked him about Jim Baxter, and he said to me, Al, he said, I needed Jim Baxter only in internationals, but he said, you're the closest thing to Baxter that I've ever known. He said, I couldn't get it. All I wanted to do was get rid of it. It was a bundle of nerves. He said, and Venables was like that before you. He said, Venables would be 10 yards away. Give me the ball, you know, and he couldn't wait. And then he kind of, as time went on, the saddest thing was when we lost to Norwich in a semi-final of the League Cup down here. Jim Bones scored 2 goals, and Eddie, where he usually just knock it to me and keep the ball, he tried to whack it a couple of times. I think his eyes were going, his head was going, and
yeah,
I think that was the time to call it a day, you know. But it was very costly.
The thing with him, Al, you'd never known he was nervous because he never, you know, from the outside looking in, because obviously I was supporting. You would never ever have known that, and you would never have known that when he was starting coaching everything else. Maybe he settled down when he was coaching because he didn't have the pressure of playing. But you'd have never known that in his manner.
No, Tom, I didn't know. I wouldn't know. If he hadn't told me, I would have known. I would never have known. But on the other side of it, I mean, at parties, he was, you know, it was outrageous. You know, he was totally, no, he was scatty, but he was, on top of that, he was a man. He took over at Chelsea, and he was the right man to do so, wasn't he? He was, you know, Chelsea, and they broke his heart. You know, they really broke his heart. You know, what they did to him was probably 10 times more than what they did to me. But that was bad enough. But to come out and say that he goes after you got promotion, a new contract, and they said he wanted another car, which was untrue. I know Eddie wouldn't do that because he loved the club too much. Yeah, he'd have done it for nothing. You know, he'd have done the job for nothing. So they kind of really smeared his name at that time. And the reason he got the sack, I can say it now. I would never say it when he was here, but I can say it now because I'm defending him. When, you know, they used to have this thing after the games where the manager goes up into the chairman and beat the chairman of the other teams and all the fanny, you know, all the And Eddie said, they said it's tradition, you've got to come, and Eddie went, no. He said, I'm not going up there after the game. He said, no. He said, I'm not listening to people have a go at my players, and you drew late on against Wolves in a top of the league game. I remember the game, and he
I
says,
think Tommy scored in that game.
was it a draw?
What game was it, Tom?
The promotion game in 76 when you scored the equaliser against Wolves.
Yeah, no, I scored the first goal against Wolves. Yeah, no, and John Richards equalised. Yeah, and then we played Hull in the game where we'd gone up. Funny, someone rang me today and it said it was on Big Match Revisited today. The irony of life. And Eddie was on the pitch, trying to get the fans off the pitch because they kept running on every time we scored. Unfortunately, we scored 4 times that game, so it was on quite a bit. But
going back to that game, the Wolves one, he had to do what they said because he wanted a job, and he said, "But I'm going to tell you there'd be trouble." And he went up there and he was, kind of counting the minutes. He's got to get out of there. And that June Mears, Brian's brother, the little fella, he said something that he shouldn't have said, and Eddie grabbed him up against a wall, and he had him. It was going to do, and that's why they got rid of him. And they said about the car, they should have told the truth. They should have said he's attacked one of the directors. Well.
Yeah, I mean, he was bulletproof that season, Al, and it was madness because we'd got a group of young guys organised enough to go up, and he'd done an unbelievable job, and I think it broke a lot of people's hearts, not just fans, but the boys that were there, And I know Ken took over because Ken had us since he was the youth team manager, so there was some continuity there. But they were, and Ken and Eddie, they're 2 totally different characters. I mean, they're chalk and cheese, yin and yang. Yeah. I mean, you couldn't get 2 more opposites. Ken was a really lovely man. As I said, he knew us all. But Eddie was so much different, and it was just very, very sad. But like it is today.
I've always said that you had a better, Mob. You had a better. Well, I've seen you when you're out, you had a better team spirit than what we did. We were like 4s and 5s,
yeah.
But you had it, and that's what he loves, and that's he would have done anything to protect you, and that's probably what I was saying about what he done in the boardroom, because he was protecting you kids really, because that's all you were.
Exactly. And as I said, he did that when I was 16, because when I made the debut, he took me to the stadium. There was cameras about, and he'd sort of shield me from them, took me down to the dressing room. He did all of that, knowing that obviously he was going to be on me a little bit. And he sort of helped settle them nerves, And then when you get in there, I got Marvin Hinton, you had Ron Harris, older pros, that he said, listen, look after the kid. And it went very well, But as I said, it's all down to Eddie. And he was an absolute total gentleman, looks after me great. So, today when I got that news, I was absolutely distraught, mate, gutted.
Yeah.
Tom, for those who don't remember or don't know, can you just reel off a few of the names that you played alongside in that promotion-winning team in 77?
In that group?
Yeah.
Well, Catty was in goal. He was still about. Obviously, Ron was playing. And then you had Wixie at the back. You had Gary Locke, Mickey Droy. Even Marvin Hinton was involved at times. And then you'd go with, as I said, Graham Wilkins. Then you have Ray Wilkins in midfield, Ian Britton, Gary Stanley, all them sort of guys, Ray Lou. All come through the youth team. And then you'd have Steve Finiston, Kenny Swain, myself, Clive Walker, as I said, Ian Britton. Just a real good bunch of guys that had come through. Like Alan's just said, I think Gary Stanley and Jock will be probably 4 years older than me, but you wouldn't know that the way we were. It was a lot, we were as one, and that's what Eddie did. Eddie did that. He sort of cajoled all that. He sort of nurtured that. He wanted that group spirit, and he certainly was a major part of it.
Yeah. I can't think anyone else. I was like you. I mean, it didn't really matter to me. I was gone, but I found it quite strange that the man gets promotion and then they have to do something like that because
madness. Madness. And the lovely thing was that looking at today is I think it was maybe 2 years ago, possibly 3, that we got the hospitality box that we can use. Eddie came over from the States, and was in the box, which was brilliant. So that's the last time I saw him. And he looked real well. He looked good, and he was, just looking. He watched the game. He never went in the box. He just literally sat outside the whole time. Literally warm up, watched them warm up, watched the game, and then watched them, at the end of the game, doing whatever they were doing. And only at the death did he come in. So he was really enjoyed it. And I was fortunate that I had a really good chat with him. Thanked him for everything. It was really nice because obviously, I don't know if he knew everything that went on in my life, but he certainly was a major catalyst for me going on and doing what I did at Chelsea. So, and I thanked him for that, and I'm pleased I did that, because obviously I'm never going to get the chance again,
What was the key to his management style in that era, Tom? I mean, he was obviously a galvanizing effect. He had a galvanizing effect on the team and the players, but how did his inspiration work for that squad?
To be honest with you, Tone, it was, as I said, we're a very close unit, and he nurtured that. But he was actually very relaxed in his manner. There's a game they showed on, I think it was ITV, Brian Moore, and they brought the cameras into the dressing room before the game. And Eddie was showing Butch, corners, and said to me and Jock, we had to. They squeezed up high, so we had to make sure when they cleared a corner, we came with them. Then the midfield runners would get in behind. Al, you'd appreciate that. And he was busy, but he was never. It was always very calm. And as young kids, you talk of, and we was in fairly big games for what we were, promotion back into the top leagues. That was a big thing for us and the club. So, and when you're in them last sort of 4 or 5 games, you'd be thinking to yourself, geez, are you going to bottle it? Are you going to get nervous? And he didn't allow that to happen. Training was relaxed. Everything was relaxed. And he just focused on, right, get out there on the Saturday afternoon and do your thing. So his style of managership was really good in that he'd allow you to play. He'd allow you to do whatever. He'd give you the freedom. And the other thing is, Tone, he'd come into the dressing room and he'd talk to me. Now, I was probably, 18 at the time. And he'd go to me, son, you're the best centre forward in Europe. He'd go to Wixie or you're the best centre half in Europe. He basically would tell you things that maybe weren't true, but you're right, 17, 18 year old, and this idol's telling you that you're the best striker in Europe. I mean, it's like it give you that sort of your chest puffed out, and you were like, right, I'm ready to rock and roll. So he'd give you that little bit of confidence. He'd be, you whisper in your ear holes 1-on-1. He'd tell you how good he thought you were, which was unbelievable. So no, lovely. I mean, I can't speak highly enough of him. Tom, it's I played with a lot of managers. Some very good and some very bad, as you did, Al. And Eddie was definitely up there with them. He's definitely at the top.
Well, it's strange you say that about what he said to you and what he would do with the lads, but I remember Frank saying that when he was when Marino got there, he popped his head in the shower one day when Frank was having a shower, and he said, "You carry on like this, you're going to be the best midfield player in the world." Yeah. And it worked. It worked on Frank, and because Frank was one of those players that it wasn't really. I knew him as a kid from West Ham. I knew, know all about him, but that was the kind of lift he needed. He left West Ham under a cloud, and then they played him out. Then they played him out of position, and I remember someone. My friend Tommy Mason, my cousin, he come up and said, "You're wrong about Frank. He ain't going to do it here." And I said, "You wait and see." He's playing him out of position, and then that was, I think that was under Ranieri.
Yeah.
And Jose come in after the Drogba thing, and it was tailor made for him, And then
again, it takes a lot of people. You've got 11 people in the dressing room plus the subs, and they all take different sort of ways of getting G'd up or getting confidence. You talked about Eddie being nervous. You talked about, I'm pretty sure you weren't nervous knowing you as I do. Ozzy weren't nervous knowing him as I did. But it takes the manager to recognise that, doesn't it? And you're saying Mourinho recognised that perhaps with Frank. Eddie was talking to us as kids, but he knew that it was going to make us feel better and get that sort of, as I said, them chest out, and let's get on the pitch and let's have a row with whoever we're playing with, And as I said, that's the sign for me of a very, very good manager. And you just put Mourinho in the same class as Eddie Mac, and then that's a lovely sort of comparison.
Well, it's you hear about other managers. I've heard about Alan Ball and Glenn Hoddle. About them, their managers. With team, not with kids. I would imagine it'd have been even worse with kids. And Eddie realised that you had to have it backing all the way. 100%, and that's what he did. I mean, and the thing is, and he gets that more by doing that. He gets more energy out of you, and which livens the crowd up. I mean, the crowd. I mean, the Chelsea crowd must have been devastated. It's only been 4 years since we won the FA Cup and Cup Winners' Cup, hadn't it?
Well, no, what's exactly 69, 70 FA Cup, 70, 71 Cup Winners' Cup, yeah.
Crazy, So, but
and we should have won the League Cup the year after, but you beat us.
Well, yeah. You beat us. Well, I was standing next to him when he scored, George, not knowing I was going to have his shirt. If I'd have known, I'd have scored it myself. But yeah.
I love you.
I think you touched on this earlier, Al. His sacking by Chelsea really had a profound effect on him. And I don't know if either of you have read his book, the book that came out about 10 years ago now. And it's obviously a story of his career and his life. And you can see, even 40 years after his sacking, you could see the profound effect that it still had on Eddie after all those years. So it was clearly something that devastated him for a long, long time.
That was why he never came back. It was at Memphis he got to say, he said, I'll never, ever go back to England. It was all down to Chelsea. I don't want to even be... I was very surprised when he come... I was just talking to Wesley, and I did said to Wesley, I'm surprised he actually come back to do what he did that day when you see him. I went over there that day, and he was very kind of all over the place, and I couldn't get much sense out of him. I think he was nervous that day,
He was very quiet. Real quiet, yeah.
Yeah, but he the things in Memphis, he was so lucky. I mean, really, if he hadn't met the girl that he met in America, Linda, she was a wonderful woman. She was a very smart, good looking, had a house like the Ponderosa, say, and had acres of land and this and that, and as I say, it was David Crockett Drive. Everything was like a dream, and to be there with him was like I just wish that we'd got players today's money where we could really enjoy it like they do, because we didn't have a lot of money. But it was great. It was like living a dream for a couple of weeks. And for him, it was unbelievable. He used to say to me, I can't believe you've come over, And when he first met me at the airport, it was like, it was nearly tears, when I left it, I didn't really want to come home. But
man,
but I think what I'm trying to say, Tom, is she put a few years on his life. He went he got done for drink driving, which he should never have done. He should never have been drinking driving. But I don't know. Who am I to talk? But that was when I was a kid.
You're not older than now, mate.
Well, it's in them days in the King's Road, you thought you'd get away with anything. But she actually said to him when he got down, she said, Eddie, it's me or the bottle, simple as that now. And he packed up drinking that day, and he got out of. He was doing about 6 months for drinking and driving. They can be mean over there, The old bills. They either love you or they don't. In America, there's no grey areas, and he done his little bit of time in there, and he come out and he's it's just to be perfectly honest, he was the kind of fella that when I talk about the money, it's and he was living there. He was the kind of fella that would invite all the lads over, you know, and all in one go, you know, and say, look at this, look, because he gave me that impression. Although he had friends there and everybody, you know, everybody said the great Eddie, but they didn't know him. They didn't know. They didn't know.
No.
Yeah. I suppose a couple of people asked him about when he played in the big game in '67 when they beat England. But that was when I asked him about. Yeah, that was when I asked him about Baxter, because Baxter was my player. He was the one that I'd have loved. I know Jim Baxter wrote in his book that me and Ozzy went up to see him and walked in his pub in Glasgow, but we didn't. He just tried to sell books, I think. But what I was going up to see him. I wanted to walk in his pub, and he died not long after I was going to go. But he said that day at Wembley, this is the difference between Jim Baxter and Eddie McCreadie. And he said that they were standing at the door, the buzzer went, and Jim Baxter was standing there just bouncing the ball. And he just looked over his shoulder, and Eddie was standing there, and he went, "How much would you like to win today, son?" He says, "I would give the whole wide world to beat these today, the world champions."
Yep.
He said, "Well, we will beat them." He said, "And I'm going to tell you how we're going to beat them." He said, "You keep kicking that little redhead on the right wing, Alan Ball." He says, "And when you kick him, you get it and you give it to me, and we'll beat them." And that's exactly what happened. So Jack Charlton got it. Jack Charlton got it. He said, and I just rolled it to him, and that was when he was in the other half, keeping the ball up and all that, and you know, wild, wasn't it? You know, but to be. You know, the nearest thing I played to that, I played against a geezer of New York called Bogacivic. Played with Pele, played with Cruyff, he played with all of them. He was up. He had Giorgio Shinaglia up front, the great Italian.
Yeah.
But Bogacivic was the nearest thing to Baxter. He was a big lad, big 6'2" Yugoslav. What a player, unbelievable. And that's the kind of thing that Eddie would have done if he was in the team with him, or Bogey would have said to him, "Hey, son, put it there. Just put it on my foot and don't worry about it. You're going to go back and start kicking them again, you know." But
I love it.
Yeah. So it's
you made a point there, Al, about when he left it, about him doing it for nothing. I actually believe that's true. It's because he had so much love at the club, so much love for the boys, that the money didn't mean anything to him. And I think, as I said, they made this story about the car, but no, he loved that era so much.
The only one I can think of is Boilers is pretty much on that wavelength. Boilers is very much the same. He's Chelsea mad, but Eddie kind of had it in his blood, when players were going across over the Palace and all that, I bet he turned around to the manager and said, "Count me out on this one. I ain't going anywhere. If I'm going to die here." He was never left. He wouldn't have left anywhere. Wouldn't have put another coloured shirt on. And that says it all about him, really. And when he got the manager's job, I was hoping, when I used to meet him in the afternoons when I was playing, I was hoping he was going to say, "Would you like to come and join us?"
Yeah,
you got the experience. I was asking. I mean, I couldn't ask him, and I'd have said, "Look, you'll get me for nothing off Arsenal because I'm not. I didn't even turn up training. I was on the run.
Yeah.
I was out running in the morning and doing what I do in the afternoons. But I would really love to, I never put it to him, but I would love him to say, "Look, come and play with the lads,"
Yeah. I mean, Ron was still there. Ron was doing what Ron does. Catty was in goal. Mickey Droy was there, so obviously played with you. So there was a few of you, the older statesmen.
Charlie was still there as well, wasn't he?
Yeah, Charlie was still there.
I'd have gone back to help you lads out, because I remember my first game for Arsenal was I was injured for about 2 months when I got there. I wasn't even fit. The first game was Arsenal, was at Highbury, and you played. the Arsenal and Chelsea reserves on a Wednesday afternoon at Highbury on a heavy pitch. That was my kind of fitness test for the Saturday, and I come through it all right and played well, and but the thing was I was having a laugh with you lads as well at the same time, you know, and it was great. It was really comfortable, and I just enjoyed the game because of you boys, you know. And it would enter my mind if only I could have been there when amongst you, you know, because there's nothing like. Well, it's like everywhere you go, you get the kids. At Arsenal, I used to take the kids at 5-a-side. I'd always have the young boys on my team. I mean, Don Howe used to say to me, "Brilliant today." He said, "The way you were with the kids, you know, and all that." Well, that was the way. That's the way players should be, you know.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Well, it's up to the older ones to teach them, mate, and you know, and encourage them.
Well, absolutely. So I've getting back to the Stoke thing. I mean, Waterton used to bring them players in to educate the youngsters in the team and the youth lads, you know, to be in the same dressing with them was quite something, you know.
Yeah.
But I don't know what else we can say about Eddie, to say the truth. It's just going to be, I mean, the thing that not so heartbreaking is heartbreaking, but it's that he's been away for so long and he went round the corner and you're going to meet him in a couple of days, you know. And but that, again, it was all down to what they did over there and how, you know, because who knows what would have happened. You know.
Well, exactly that, Al. And then, as I said, 2 years, whatever it was, when I saw him in the box, it was such a lovely shock because, you know, my recollection was he was never going to come back, like you said. And when they said Eddie Max in the box, it was just, oh, you beauty. And as I said, he was very quiet. I mean, I went out and had a good chat with him and thanked him for everything he'd done. As I said, he didn't come out. He didn't go in the box until the end of the game. He literally watched the warm-up, watched the game, and then watched the end at sort of 5 minutes where they're milling around, shaking hands, and then he came into the box. But, you know, he was just really taking it all in, soaking it all up, you know?
Yeah, the other thing is, what year did Matthew Harding get involved with Chelsea?
Oh, geez, that was with Oddle, wasn't it? It was with Glenn. So I don't know what year that was.
94, 95, around there.
Was that where it was, Pun? Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it that late?
Yeah.
So it's quite a while after, wasn't it? But with someone like Matthew in charge, you know, he would have rubber stamped Eddie. He wouldn't have.
Yeah.
He would have said, "You're going nowhere," you know.
Yeah, of course.
He only wanted people in that club that lived for the club, and that was Eddie would have been his man, you know. But
I'll tell you one thing we haven't touched upon today. We have to. I mean, the word legend is often bandied around and it's misused, really. But it's true to call Eddie McCreadie a proper Chelsea legend. And one of the reasons is that famous goal he scored in the 1965 League Cup final. Didn't he play centre forward that day?
He did.
Al?
He did.
Tell us about it. I know you weren't.
I weren't there.
I know you weren't playing, but you know more about it than the rest of us.
Yeah, I weren't even. I remember. I think I might have been at the game. Strangely enough. Why, I don't know, because I weren't apprentice. I could have been apprentice, maybe. But yeah, he ran about 50 yards with the ball through the whole lot of them, didn't he? In the mud, and found himself with a goalie to beat. And I bet the old ticker was going. I bet
he got nervous then.
Oh, mate, yeah. I bet that must have been the greatest moment of his life, you know, for him to score a goal like that. And who was it against? Was it against Leicester?
Yeah, Leicester.
Yeah.
And he was playing. He was playing centre forward that day, wasn't he?
Yeah, he played a couple of games up there. Yeah, I suppose he thought, well, he was kicked enough for that. Yeah, cut up to their wingers. Let's get you up front against their defenders.
Did he ever talk to your group about that goal, Tom?
Smashing us.
Tom, did he ever talk to your group about that goal?
Sorry, Tom, say again.
Did he ever talk to your group about that goal?
No. He never brought it up, mate. But I think that was something he didn't want to brag about. But going back to your point, though, mate, without a shadow of a doubt, you took the legend word is definitely bandied around maybe too much and too often for people that aren't. This guy is without a shadow of a doubt a Chelsea legend, not just for his playing career, what he did in the early 70s with a bunch of kids. So the group now that are supporting Chelsea almost grew up. Obviously, they're elder statesmen in their sort of 60s. Grew up with my side. Grew up with a side that was not very good, but were young, were enthusiastic, and were led by Eddie Mac. And I've had a load of texts today from that age group saying what a great man Eddie was, and again what Eddie said earlier, what a shame that it wasn't able to be taken forward because of crazy decisions made by the board, where his face didn't fit. So without a shadow of a doubt, mate, he is a Chelsea legend, and for what he's done as with Eddie and playing with Eddie and playing with that great team of the 70s and going on and managing a group of kids and doing such a great job. So it gets bandied around, mate, but without a shadow of a doubt, he is definitely one.
Yeah, I can't think of anyone that has earned the name legend more than him. He just was Chelsea through and through, wasn't he?
Yeah.
But
he lived and breathed it out. Even in my days, when I was fortunate. I used to watch you guys, and when Eddie played, I used to love watching him play. He's enthusiastic. He used to smash a few wingers, and it was just lovely because you could get away with it then. He wouldn't last very long now, Al. That's for sure. But no, it's I loved watching him, and then I had the pleasure of then being one of his boys, which was brilliant. And as I said, I told you earlier when this started, the influence he had on my life and my career at Chelsea was untold. I can't put a value on it.
Yeah. It's great. But I do. They talk about the tackle that Tony mentioned, the one with Bremner. But I was sitting in the East Stand one day, and they played Manchester United. And Johnny Giles was playing on the right wing for Manchester United. And you know how technically was definitely so gifted. He was a great player, Giles. And, he was dropping the shoulder and all this and all that. And Eddie was saying to him, come down the line, And he went to go down the line. And as he went to go down the line, he just flicked with his right foot inside Eddie and thinking he sent him the wrong way. And Eddie swung his right foot round and got him right across the waist and took him up in the air. They stretching him off. Well, the Chelsea fans were going. So I think that was where Johnny Giles, it wasn't so much the lead thing with us, it was that was the start of his vendetta with Chelsea.
Yeah.
And
start the vendetta.
Eddie got him a cracker. And that was when he was obviously a younger player, because he was related. Did they marry sisters, him and Nobby Stiles, didn't they? Giles and Stiles, and the two girls. Yeah. Yeah, so they were at Manchester United together, and I think
Bit like Harry and Frank.
Yeah. Bit disappointed, never met a better winner. Tom, did you back it? King George?
I did, yeah. Over small money, mate. I was out having a bit of lunch with the kids, and I screamed it home for him. I spoke to him on the Wednesday, and I wished him all the best. And obviously, he was very nervous. Talk about Eddie being nervous. You see, Harry that day was whiter than a sheet. I mean, geez, yeah. I think he screamed it home. But no, he's lovely man, mate. But all good.
Okay, well, you guys have paid a glowing tribute and a respectful and loving tribute for Super Eddie today. It's been brilliant. Let's finish off with one final story from each of you about Eddie, or final recollection of what he meant to you.
Well, I think I've been through mine, Tone. I mean, Eddie played with him as a young boy. I just had the unbelievable respect for him, and growing up, loving him as a footballer, then being managed by him, mate, was brilliant. And then, as I said to you earlier, the legacy he left me was brilliant. He helped me along, he guided me, cajoled me. Was almost a cushion for me as well. So no, I can't speak highly enough of him as a person. Just absolutely loved every bone in his body as a player and as a manager. So he's today's very I still can't believe I got the news when I got off the plane today for the Arsenal game tomorrow. There was the text message. So yeah, it wasn't the best way to arrive in the UK today, but it said, God bless Eddie, and thanks for all you did for me, boss.
Well, I pretty much feel the same way as you, Tom, because I was a kid when I got in the team, and he looked after me exactly the same way. You know, he knew me from Tuesday and Thursday nights training, and he obviously had closeness to Docky. Docky said he bought me to take over from Venables, which I don't believe, because he went and got Charlie, whatever. But Eddie was always kind of like George Best used to say about Paddy Crane was his minder. Eddie would, be that. If anyone went near me, he would, he'd look up. And the way he treated me the first couple of away games, and bring it, make you feel special and that, he was just a diamond. And then I've obviously played with him in America, and everybody loved him. Even the bad players loved him, and we had some, it wasn't a upmarket team by any means, but they all loved Eddie. And he, what can you say? I do know one thing, that we'll find out that we want to get a film of it. They'll give him a send off in Tennessee, mate. That's on the ranch. They will give him a send off like no other, because he was loved over there. They loved him over there. All the people. He was their chef as well. He used to cook all their meals and do all that kind of stuff. But we're lucky to have gone along the same path.
Absolutely, yeah. That's the one saving grace, mate. We crossed paths, and as I said, it was, I wouldn't have had it any other way. It was brilliant for me.
Yeah.
Lovely. Okay, Tom. Listen, thanks for taking time out after coming off the plane. Mate. It's been brilliant. No. Can I just say to our viewers out there, if there's anything about Eddie Mac that we haven't touched upon and you'd like to know, certainly from Alan, and I'm sure we can get Tommy involved as well, just leave your questions in the comments section below the podcast, and I'm sure Alan will answer any questions you've got, and I'm sure we can put them to Tom as well, and I'm sure he'd help us out as well. So in the meantime, though, rest in peace, Super Eddie Mac.
Yeah, cheers, Tony. Eddie, love you.
And you, mate. And you. Thanks for coming on.
Pleasure, mate. Stay well,
Love to see ya.
Stay well, mate.
And you, love. So, mate.
Take care. Bye, mate. Bye.